Hello and welcome back. My name is Alana and today we're going to be talking about the TV show The Witcher Season 2. So beware because there will be spoilers for Season 1 and Season 2 within this video, so if you are not yet caught up, you have been warned. Also, if you would like to know my favourite and least favourite things from Season 1, I did do a little recap and review video, which I will leave linked up above and down below for you. So if you want to watch that one first and then come back to this one, feel free. As with my last Witcher video, I do want to reiterate the fact that this is my entry point to the Witcher franchise. So I have not yet read the books or played the video games. I have solely just seen the TV show from Netflix. So I could get things wrong moving forward, or there could be some things that seem obvious for people who have experienced other avenues of this franchise. But for me, the viewpoint that you're going to get is the TV show and what has wowed me, or some what the hell moments, or just general things as well. So this video will be split up into 5 different little mini sections. So we will be delving into character, we will be going into the storyline and plot, some of my favourite moments or scenes from the show, set design and the score, and just the things that make the show unique to itself, and then finally some what the hell moments which didn't 100% line up for me. And at the end there as well, I will be telling you my overall rating for this series and if I am excited to continue on with watching it for when the next season does drop, whenever that be. So let's start out with characters. In Season 2, our characters change a lot from Season 1. They have different arcs that they are going through, and there's a whole bunch of different characters that just get shaken up and have a different set of problems or realities to face. So to start off with, we have Geralt, who in the first season, very stoic, man on his own, that type of thing. And in Season 2, he has to learn essentially how to be a parent and how to parent a teen who is going through a lot. So while we have Geralt going through fatherhood and what that means to him, and him discovering a new family versus his old family faction within the Witches, we also have Yennefer, who is going through a bit of a power struggle. She has lost her powers and is appearing to be kind of broken, disconnected from her power, and will do anything to get it back. So after coming a long way in Season 1, where she starts off here powerless, gains all her power, and then has her big climactic moment at the end of Season 1, she is then reset, stripped back, and it's interesting to see this character and the actress who plays her really channeling and diving into that. While I'm talking about the big 3, we also have Cirilla, who in this one is learning to fight. I think that's her big thing, is learning to fight and her family history, which then delves into bloodline and things like that. And I really loved this character in Season 2. I think she got a lot more screen time and a lot more time to just develop and have some really crucial key moments, as well as some fun as well. So I think Cirilla is one of those characters in Season 2 for me that really stepped up, and the actress who portrays her did a fantastic job with this as well. Just showed more sides to this character instead of just being a young girl running scared through a forest for all of Season 1. In this one, she really stands up and starts to come into her own. One of the biggest character changes for me on screen was actually Jaskier. He goes from floppy, funny, bard energy in Season 1 to, for lack of a better term, emo Jaskier in this one. He is very jaded and disgruntled that Geralt left him on the mountainside in Season 1, which I did mention in my Season 1 review that moment broke my heart for him. And when we see him come back through in Season 2 here, it's this cheery character that is trying to come across as just heartbroken and disgruntled, and it's working, but you can tell that the old Jaskier is still there underneath. He's just shrouded in unhappiness and discontentment. Now for some of our side characters, we have Tissaia, who is Yennefer's mentor. She is unhinged in the first couple of episodes of Season 2, and then it's her just not being as sure-footed as she was in Season 1, so that was an interesting thing to see. And then by the end of the season, she's kind of back on her feet. but it was very interesting to see her cross a few lines at the start of this season, especially when questioning Kahir, because I think that she broke some of her own rules there, and it's always fascinating to see that on screen. Speaking of Kahir, I feel like we got more of him in this season, and there is so much potential with this character. This actually falls into my what the hell moment type, because they're giving him more time and we get to see him as more of a human in this one, but at the same time he ventures into asshole type territory again at a point within this. I think his arc and his character overall is going to end up very satisfying. It's just going to be interesting to see how we get there. And then to close off on characters, we have the 3 remaining mages that I feel like got highlighted here. We have Frigilla, Eastrid, and Triss. So Frigilla is finding her own way in this season, very much so. In season 1, she is a puppet. She is more a blind follower of first the Brotherhood and then of Nilfgaard, but I feel like in season 2 she starts to have these quiet moments by herself where she is working out how to gain power for herself. Very interesting. She actually also has a key favourite scene of mine, which I'll mention in a bit. Then we have Triss, who is different as well from season 1. Season 1, she's very open, very light-hearted, very warm-hearted as well. But in season 2, she's a little bit more guarded. She's been hurt. She's been literally burned. She's got the scars on her body. And she's a little bit more hesitant, but she's crucial in this as well because she goes to Ciri to help train her, and we see her vulnerability along the way. So really liked how we delved into that. And then finally we have Eastrid, who is not so naive as he was in the first season. Again, another character that got slightly jaded from experiencing some of our main characters like Yennefer. But I love how they utilized his character in this season. I liked that his historian role really amped up, especially with the monoliths and the working out of Ciri's bloodline. I just feel like they were very, very gracious towards this character in this season, and I love that they brought him back because he ended up not being a favorite of mine in season 1, and I feel like he's come back around for season 2. I also love that scene with him and Geralt interacting when Geralt works out that he's not the only one that has loved Yennefer. And yeah, loved what they did with his character. So those were some of the main cast character things that changed and that I enjoyed, which then flows into our storyline and plot. So in this one, the world gets bigger again. And there's this kind of disconnect with some of the reviews that I've seen so far and with my own feelings towards it as well with The Witcher, because you can take it 2 ways. You can take it to just general monster hunting, good times, keep it small, or you can take it epic in scope and you can just go really, really big. And I've seen some people, and I agree with this, really love those quieter moments of Geralt just getting to do his thing and the politics and things like that cropping up along the way with his adventures, rather than this huge, big, in-your-face plot with destiny and things like that. But I also will follow that up with saying, I understand we need a bigger plot to get more seasons and to get more content and to pay off moments within the story. So it's kind of, I can see both sides of it. I think for the majority of this season, they met in the middle. We still got big monster fighting scenes, like with the tree guy. Again, I'm showing that I haven't read the books or played the video games because I won't know all the terms. But this scene was epic with all the branches and or arms going everywhere. The first episode with the twist on Beauty and the Beast, where we have the vampire-like character. Wow. Really, really loved this episode. And overall, I just think the monsters were done better than season 1 as well. In short, the monsters kind of bridged the gap between those 2 different modes of storytelling that you could take this franchise. And I liked that the monsters were still a key part within this story and it didn't just go 100% Game of Thrones political. In season 2, we also get more of the elves faction coming through. They're utilized a lot more in this season than they were in the first, which also could be because of the source material that this got adapted from, which was the book called Blood of Elves. This also bleeds into the prophecy that the elves have as well. And then we also have the different political factions. So we've got the Brotherhood, we've got Nilfgaard, we've got even the witches trying to create more of themselves. We also have a kingdom that we haven't heard much of, which is Redania, which we see the king and his little Brotherhood mage minion as well. Then we have everything happening with Ciri and everyone that is after her for her powers, and we also have the Deathless Mother slash Baba Yaga influenced big bad. So as the showrunner has commented on saying, this is very much a political chessboard of a season, because we have all these different factions kind of poking their head up and all wanting a piece of Ciri. And I loved learning more about Ciri as well, as everyone is after her and we delve into her subconscious with Triss, who then realizes that something's not quite right here as they get attacked within that dream state. But I love learning history and lore and bloodlines of certain people within a story. To me, that is fascinating. So I loved when we saw tidbits of that. I do wish that we got to see a little bit more of Ciri learning how to control her powers, but that's probably a season 3 thing, to be honest. I thought she would get more of her power stuff under control, but I did really love her training scenes with her physically learning how to fight and her interaction with the other witches and all of the play there as well. Really, really good. Speaking of, I love seeing the Witcher faction at Kaer Morhen and just seeing their family dynamic and all of that, although it did do something which I hate. I hate this trope of introducing a very powerful faction, talking them up, making them feel and look amazing, and then you take this huge wrecking ball and wipe most of that faction, if not all of that faction, out. Which happened here. In the finale, we see Ciri possessed by the Deathless Mother, and she's going around killing these big bad witches, and we didn't get enough time with all of them as a group. We've got a couple of our key ones left, which is great, and I hope that we see more of them in the coming seasons. But don't introduce a very powerful faction and then just wipe them out like that. It's not satisfying, in my own personal preference and opinion, at all. Not satisfying. But yes, I loved seeing their stronghold. I loved seeing them interact with Geralt and a couple of his little flashbacks. I know that there's a little bit of conflict at the moment with one of the main Witcher characters. I think, is it Ezekiel, who gets killed off in this season, apparently does not in the book slash games slash other part of the franchise. But again, me experiencing this story firsthand through the TV series is probably my happiest way to be doing this, because I'm not constantly comparing to how things should be. I can just enjoy the series as it is and where they go and the different directions that they target towards. So that's kind of a rough overview of the storyline and plot. Obviously, probably forgetting a whole bunch of things, but I don't want to be rambling about this all day. So moving on to set design and the score and what makes The Witcher The Witcher. Costumes, again, hands down brilliant, especially all of the Brotherhood stuff. When they're in their chambers interacting in their full regalia, amazing. Yennefer also gets a couple of really badass dresses again. Even Triss within Kaer Morhen just slays. Love it. I love Ciri's more kind of tomboy training outfit that she gets, as well as her more princessy things as well, and how she splits between the two, alongside the elves costuming as well, how they're very regal but fae-like, and then also the vibrant colours that we get with Yennefer and Jaskier when they're in their purple cloaks and things like that. Also, Fringilla gets a huge glow up in this season 2 with her costume. Super glad about that as well, because season 1, her main robe wasn't really doing it, but this is what she deserves. Love that. And I feel like this, paired with the landscapes that they use, paired with their music score, make The Witcher feel so unique to itself. I know that it gets compared a lot to being like the next Game of Thrones or whatnot, but the reality is these are two different projects. They are separate. Just because they are both political fantasy doesn't mean that they need to be identical, and I just love how The Witcher has found its own look and style and sound and really come into itself in this season. When I talk about score as well, I just love how they pair the soundtrack with certain high intense moments as well, especially some fight scenes when the Witcher theme music comes in. Jaskier also got another top 10 hit as well. And while it wasn't as catchy as Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, it was also really, really great. It is currently stuck in my head and probably will be for some time. And yeah, in relation to music score, I've just got written here on my notepad, backed up big moments again and again and made the whole thing feel more epic. I think that's what this season has done really well. It makes this show and this body of work feel epic, whether that's through the amazing actor performances, whether it's through the vibrant and differentiating costume design, whether it's with the score that just is hand in hand working with the whole rest of the set and the story, or with these amazing backdrops, you know, just these huge, amazing shots. I really want to give credit where credit's due with The Witcher just being epic, essentially. Now to get into some of my favorite moments or scenes, we have Ciri just getting to be a teenager in this one. Just getting to joke around, have these big brother type figures, learning how to train, but just showing a little bit more personality and more sass than what she got to show in season 1. It was a major highlight for me. Like, she is now one of my favorites to watch within this, whereas season 1 she kind of not got done dirty, but just didn't get to perform as much. In this one, I love seeing her just be a teenage girl, overwhelmed, going through stuff, but also finding light moments within the story. Another big one was Geralt and Jaskia's reunion. That whole scene of him talking to the mice, of him not believing when Geralt is there, the heart-wrenching but feel-good of him saying, "Are you sure?" when Geralt comes in to rescue him. All of that scene was a big highlight. Another key moment with Jaskia was when Yennefer is saving him or helping him escape from the outlawed fire mage dude. I think it's Ryance, with him and his fire magic, and she just comes along with a mouthful of alcohol pretending to be Jaskia's drunk wife and goes up to this guy and he clicks his finger and she blows alcohol in his face and burns him. I love that that highlights the fact that she's still using her brain even if she can't use her magic. Then to get into some more darker moments that I really loved, we have Ciri and the vampire-like character in episode 1, where she is doing a creepy walk down the wall, the vampire, and then she comes across Ciri and they have this chat about monsters and the whole continuing conversation of what makes you a monster, man versus monster, man becoming monster, all of that. I love when The Witcher takes its time in scenes like this because it is a central theme of the story, but it's also doing it in such a quiet, emotion-packed way that makes you feel for the characters. So this whole scene, plus I love the light horror, creepy elements that they put in with this character's clicking and her jagged movements, and just her being a little bit unbalanced. Then we have Fringilla and the dinner scene, where she is just straight up showing Cahir how much power she has and how much she can choose to follow him or to carve her own way. And she's just frozen everyone. She's putting daggers in necks. She's mad. And wow, power to her in this moment. Even though this was a very dark scene, I remember sitting there watching it and just being blown away because of the performance, because of how startling it is, and just her taking control. Leading on from this, when we have Francesca and her heartbreak, which frees the deathless mother, but when the elves are walking along the street towards the end there and she's just heartbroken, she has had enough, and she is killing human children as she walks past. They're crying and then it all becomes really, really quiet, and then after a second or two you hear the mothers wailing because their children have just been taken away from them and have died. This is something that, even though the elves plot within this did feel a little bit big at times, it still worked because the payoff of this moment, my gut dropped. Like, it was incredible and heartbreaking, and it's giving me goosebumps while I talk about it, but wow, that was a moment. And then my final just feel-good thing that I really enjoyed was the found family element of Yennefer, Geralt, and Cirilla finally coming together with Jaskia as like the funny bard uncle as well, and just seeing them pair up and getting ready to face season 3. Loved this. I think it's really going to be them against the world in season 3 because of everyone that wants Cirilla's powers, because she can portal into other spheres and all of the other things that she can do, plus like her dad the big reveal that he is alive and is controlling Nilfgaard, and that's another big thing in and of itself. But just those 3/4 getting ready to face the consequences of just existing coming into the next season. Loved that. I love that. So finally, to finish up on this review and recap, we're gonna have some what the hell moments from me. These are just a couple of little things that didn't really work or threw me off a little bit. First of all, the most obvious, the contact lenses in the eyes. I get it, but every bitch is wearing a pair. Nearly everyone. Ciri, pretty sure she is. If she's not, then they look like it. Sorry. Yen with her purple eyes, but hers are done better. I really like hers. Geralt and all the witches with their varying shades of yellow. And most of the time throughout this, I just kept on getting slightly pulled out because of how yellow Geralt's eyes were. Like, at times it was a relief when he was taking his witcher potion and his eyes were darkening out, because it was a lot. It kind of reminded me of the shift from the first Twilight movie where they went really subtle with the vampire eye color, and then compared to the later movies where it was like contacts. You can tell because these eyes are just like staring at you all the time. So that was something that maybe they could have played it a little bit more subtle, but I mean, something that is obviously accurate to the books and the video games, so I'm not 100% mad about it. It was just very off-putting at some points. Then we have where we pick up in the first episode, where we learn that the whole Battle of Sodden, the casualties, didn't really stay dead. So in that final episode, you see Triss going down, you see Sabrina going down, you see Vilgefortz, who also looks like he goes down a couple of times, but it's not 100%. And you just see all these casualties of the Brotherhood and the mages that actually end up being fine, or at least surface level, alive and going to be okay, come back. Don't be afraid to kill your characters off is where I'm going with this, I think, because I like a consequence. And some of these, like with Sabrina surviving after her fall when she's got the broken neck in the finale of season 1, or at least it looks like it is, she didn't play a further role really, from what I could tell, in season 2, other than, you know, like, she's back and she's okay. So, I did like that we got Triss back because I was going to miss her heavily, but again, she didn't look too hot. And I know that her character got impacted due to that, so I'm glad it wasn't just she's better and she's fine now, because she is emotionally and physically scarred from her ordeal. So that kind of irked me a little bit. And then also the relationship between some of the elves. Let me just Google names so that I'm 100% on the same page. So the relationship between Filavandrel and Francesca, not clearly defined for someone who is not experienced further in this franchise from season 1. I'm sure the books and the game delve into this more, but for someone who's just coming into it, didn't realize that they were a couple from the early episodes we got in season 2. And then there's this huge flip when Francesca is heavily pregnant and their baby is born, and he's the father. Didn't pick up on that until I got to that point, and it was very jarring, and I just think that could have been a little bit clearer from the start because it had me backtracking a little bit. So it's just some unnecessary confusion that we didn't 100% need. I know that he stated that she took over leading the elves because he failed in some aspects, but make that connection between the two clearer, because it kind of was her brother, and him at the start, and then her brother starts to fade more into the background, and then they get brought up as their relationship, but still not clear enough. Make it clearer. Thanks. And then finally, the slightly hilarious realization that Jaskia's character within the books and the games, I think, is actually called Dandelion. Like, I know this is nothing new to people who already know this, but I didn't. And then I googled the casting of The Witcher, and even here you can see that Joey comes up as Dandelion and not Jaskia, even though we don't call him that in the series. It's just funny, and I mainly found this out through other people's reviews that I watched, and also through when I went on a random meme hunt of Jaskia memes at like midnight the other night. Love him so much, but I was seeing when Dandelion does this, I'm like, who the fuck is Dandelion? It's Jaskia. It's fine. but can we just have more of him? I'll take a spin-off story of Yaskia / Dandelion if you want to give that to us, Netflix. But yeah, that was just another little funny added thing that I did discover. So those were my overall thoughts and feelings and a slight recap and review of The Witcher Season 2. Now for my overall rating, I'm gonna give this a solid 8 out of 10, and I mean solid. I love this TV show and I'm very excited to see it go further. I did also like that the timeline got more linear this season as well, because I felt like they didn't have to spend so much time playing around with it and could just tell the story. But I'm very, very excited for Season 3. Not sure when we're getting that, but I will again binge watch the whole thing within a couple of days and hopefully love it. So that's going to be it from me today. Let me know in the comments down below if you've engaged in other elements of the Witcher franchise, or if you are enjoying, not enjoying, how you're finding the show going. Pop it all down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another one. Bye!